Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, brothers, and sisters. Welcome back from the summer break. We are back for another round number 5 to be precise, of the TCUK Online Championship as powered by AK Esports. My name is Chris Buxton. I'll be one of your commentators throughout tonight's festivities here at Cheshire's finest. It is a wonderful circuit. I love this place. It is Oulton Park. Joining me in the commentary box, once again, glad to have on my side Alex Newman. How are you, Alex? Ready to roll?
I'm really good. How are you doing, Mr. Chris Buxton?
No, I'm asleep. Just in case you couldn't tell, I am so amped for this. I was actually ready 2 weeks ago, forgetting entirely it was a break week 2 weeks ago. But so we've got these wonderful touring car spec cars. Now, interestingly, the practice was headed by the Hondas, but it was the BMWs that shined through during the quali session. We will be going through the quali results very soon. But those that have maybe just joining us, haven't seen the previous races, where have you been? You've missed some incredible racing action in this season thus far. And I have no doubt we're in for another spectacular night of racing with the TCUK crew. Now, 3 races, of which the qualifying dictates the grid for race number 1. The finishing result of that dictates the grid for race number 2. And then it is a random element of reverse grid for grid number 3 to see out the night. Now then, as we can see on circuit, we're in the island circuit version of Oulton Park. So this cuts out Island Bend, Shallows Corner, and the Britain's Chicane. So we go through the hairpin just before Island Bend and then scream our way down towards Hislops and the chicane there through Knickerbrook and onwards. Very old circuit, this one. Actually uses corner names as opposed to corner numbers. This is one that you've not been to. Have you sim raced here before, Alex?
Yeah, I've sim raced it plenty. I don't think I've ever covered the circuit either, both obviously not real life, but also not in the good old esports either. So it is completely new, and luckily it's a 2-day thing for me because I'm doing this as well tomorrow. So it's definitely good practice.
Good man. There we go. So this is the calendar that we've had so far. We've had Brands Indy, Silverstone International, Thruxton, and Donington Park National, and we will be heading to Croft, way up north next time out, followed by Snetterton. I've been waxing lyrical about every week before the broadcast. Then the full version of Donington, then Silverstone National, and rounding out with the full version of Brands. That's such an amazing calendar for such an incredible series. Now then, we have got the tyre allocations have been given to us. Now, again, for those unfamiliar with the setup of the tyre allocations, it is as thus. So, of the 3 races, the drivers elect which one of those 3 races they run the option or the softer tyre for. And most of which have gone for race number 2, which is not entirely uncommon. 8 drivers have chosen to run it race 1, 11 have chosen race 2, and only 5 have chosen race 3 as their option tyre run. Few notable absences. Ross McGregor is not with us. Chris Shepherd is not here. Cameron Brewster and the championship leader Gianmarco Fiducci is not with us. So we will be seeing a new winner. Gianmarco Fiducci is not been the only winner of the series, in fairness. He dominated very early on, and then I think a little bit of balance of power, or the BMWs really coming up to speed, have kind of taken some of the silverware away from the Velocity Esports driver. Here is the grid for race number 1. Callum Wilson and Matt Richards. Oh, Matt Richards did that late because it was a BMW 1-2 last I knew of the death of the qualifying. So Wilson and Richards on row 1. Daniel Herlock and Callum Cripps row 2. Cito Via jumps up to 5th position. He was down in 7th or 8th, I think, last I saw him. In the Toyota for Brabham, alongside Jordan Richardson, row 3. Mitch Murray and Matthew Lee, row 4. Alan Smith and Jeff Fournier round out the front 5 rows. Row 6 has Phil Morby and Matt Allington. Row 7 is Jack London and Ben Willis. Row 8, Jacob Kowalski and Stefan McCready in row 8. And row 9 is Sam Dowman and Oliver Rogers. And with row 10 with Nathan Croak and Max Spooner. with Ty Cuthbert. Did have some difficulty getting into the session, so didn't get as many laps in as some others. Joining him on row 11 is Thiago Lopez with Joao Belto and Adam Christopher not able to set a lap, so they'll be starting at the back of the field. All right, what are we expecting here? Where are our trouble spots going to be? Where do you think the action's going to be fast and furious on this one, Alex?
Well, in terms of the entire circuit, it's so narrow, as you were mentioning pre-broadcast. But I think going into Lakeside and the hairpin there is just going to provide really good racing, but also probably quite dangerous as well. Very narrow, quite cambered as well, as you can imagine in the banking. So that is definitely going to provide us pretty decent racing, as well as going into Knickerbrook, the chicane just after the hairpin, which is also a very, very tight hairpin indeed. Not hairpin, sorry, chicane. So that is going to be another probably quite close racing place, probably where we might see some incidents occur. But apart from that, it seems, I've said it now, but apart from that, it seems relatively clean in terms of corners.
Okie dokie. So, well, the thing with Oulton Park is it is very, very bumpy. Snetterton is very flat. Silverstone is very flat. They're former airfields. Of course they are going to be. Yeah, when it comes to the likes of Oulton or Donington, they have this wonderful flow about them. But Oulton Park, very, very challenging because it is really bumpy in very key areas. Almost every corner has a potential for action. If you get Old Hall corner wrong, you dip onto the grass, you are catapulting yourself into the pit lane exit. Go too wide into Cascades and you will throw yourself onto the outside line of Lakeside. Like you said, I think you're right. The hairpin just before Island Bend, that is where we deviate from the full version of the circuit, is likely to have some hot spots. Breaking into Hislops and through Knickerbrook, those bollards will catch people out. You will have people that will try and cut that chicane too close, so they are brilliant at stopping people. So they will, they will stop people pretty quickly. We're on the rolling lap now, so one rolling warm-up lap, and then a standing start to get the racing underway. So we'll actually follow. We are looking at, I believe it's Phil Morby. We are looking at present. So we're just coming down through Dentons into Cascades now. If you run too wide here, you're absolutely full crank coming through here. So if you touch the grass on the outside, it will spit you to that Armco barrier on the left-hand side, and it is not forgiving. Then you are staying on the gas, and there is just a very slight uphill to this heavy braking zone here for the hairpin just before Island Bend. Now, this is where we skip the Britain chicane we just saw in the background, and heading towards Hislops, which, again, you've got to get your braking point right. Your only real reference, unless you pick a panel on the wall, is basically your distance to that very steel bollard you just saw on the inside line. We're now coming on the exit of Knickerbrook into Clay Hill. Gets so bumpy, the undulation changes. We saw cars bottoming out in certain places, so the BMWs being longer will bottom out several times. We do see the flashing lights of the cars. We're not entirely convinced everybody is doing that, but I think that's just more of a visual bug on our side. Druids, brilliant corner if you can get that one right. This particular corner, I was horrendous at getting this completely wrong. So we're coming into Lodge corner as an opposite camber, right-hander, and then it drops very suddenly, enough to leave your lunch behind, into Deer Leap, and then you catapult over, and over the line you come. So we've got a lot of great racing ahead of us on a wonderful, wonderful circuit.
Indeed we do. Now we do see all of the cars starting to line up and formulate into their grid position as we get to go green here for the first race of the TCUK Esports race at Oulton Park here for tonight's racing.
Very true. So as the grid now continues to form, we've got two cars. Those will be those that didn't set a qualifying lap, I'm assuming, that are coming into the pit lane. They'll be starting after the rest of the field has gone by. So then, we just wait for everybody to have formed, and then the lights will come on, and we'll get our first race of 3 underway here in Little Budworth, up in Cheshire. We're going to wait for the session to realise everybody is settled down. A very nervous wait, especially if you're and you're in a good position or good by your own standards, you just want to get it underway. And away we go. There we are racing for the first time tonight. What a storming start by the Honda. Matt Allington absolutely got that start perfectly. The BMW absolutely napping. Got a few beamers, a few cars flirting with the grass as you always do, but my God, that Honda absolutely scolded cat away from the line. And the RSR BMW is now under challenge on the outside line by one of the Richardson Co. Racing BMWs. We'll figure out who is where in a moment when the tower gets to us. Inside line, 2x2, you can do it, just about wide enough to do that. Lots of side-by-sides, lots of slidey ways, but from what we can see, so far so good.
Indeed, it does seem like the Richardson Co. BMW still under pressure, but we do also see the other Honda behind of what is going to be Richardson is going to try and go side by side through Knickerbrook. He is still having to hold it on, going through the outside. Unfortunately, it's not going to work for him. He's lost a lot of time and also at risk now from losing more positions from behind, like the names of Morby. But we do see now going into Clay Hill and Water Tower. It's going to be again nearly 3 wide going into Druids. There is a car going to go wide, but they're still all relatively safe so far.
Gosh, truth, there was... Oh, no, that's the Brabham car that's been sent into oblivion. You had to say it. Well, I was flirting with the commentator's cars, so it looks like Mitch Marie was one of the cars caught up in that. And because it's such a fast circuit, if you do enter problems, it does tend to be fairly dramatic. So not everybody is... I said Matt Allington got the start, but it was Matt Richards, I beg your pardon, absolutely took off. And now you've got Callum Cripps getting the inside line along with Jordan Richardson in the Civic. So it's Beamer Civic... beg your pardon, Civic Beamer for your top 4. And Richardson looks at the inside line coming through Cascades, trying to get past Callum Cripps. Can't quite get it done at the moment. Now, is Matt Richards on the option tyre? He's not, would you believe? He's just nailed his start absolutely right. There's Dan Herlock trying an outside manoeuvre into the hairpin. It's never going to work. Too slow, too long to try and get that one done. But the RSR BMW not quite up to pace at the moment, at least, with the Richardson Co BMWs, but the Hondas really coming good.
Approaching into the start of Sector 2, this is where the tyre usage is going to be at its highest point with obviously Druids, and you can see Lodge Corner going to be, again, just to be using the tyres, especially if you're on the softer compounded tyres. It's just going to ruin them so quickly. So I'll be surprised if we do see those softer tyres lasting to the halfway point of the race now. But on board now with Jordan Richardson in the highest, no, not the highest scoring Honda, nearly going to make it a double Honda podium right now if he's able to maintain P2 as he looks to go on approach going into Lodge Corner. But again, he's not going to be able to get close enough to actually, well, I guess get past him is the easiest way to put it.
There he goes. He got the exit right coming out of Lodge Corner, gets the inside line coming up to Old Hall Corner, and up into second place comes Jordan Richardson. Matt Richards with the fastest lap. Unsurprisingly, look at the pack behind Phil Morby in the Cupra in 6th position. He is under so much pressure. Slightly further back than we are looking at the second of the Brabham cars, which is Lee, I believe it is. Oh, never mind. It's side by side going on. I think that's Morby, and it might be. Oh, that's too deep. Oh, goodness me. That was Jeff Fournier in the 97 going barreling through. He's alongside Cedo Vaya in the blue Brabham car, and he does manage to get the exit he needs, but he was a little bit elbows out to get the RSR BMW up into what is now 7th position. But this group behind Phil Morby, Phil in a really strong position. I think it was Matty Allington getting a slightly squirrely coming out of Knickerbrook. And also right behind him, look at the three-way fight, almost side by side again. That's Lee and Jack London having an argument for his 10th position.
Jack London still not being able to keep off of what is going to be the Cooper behind of Willis. Now we do see it's almost going to go 3 wide going into Lodge Corner here, but we do see the Cooper is still going to try and go at it. But now the new car of the Hyundai going into the next lap, still being able to maintain P11 here. I believe it's Matthew Lee coming in to what is going to be turn 1. He is going to try and lunge for the inside line now onto the Ford of London. Not going to be able to make the move stick though. In fact, he goes very wide, which is going to put him under a lot more pressure now, as we can see the Cooper just creeping and propelling himself with the slipstream going into Caskets now.
Great stuff. A little bit further up as we are looking at so this is the battle for second position of Richardson, Cripps and Herlock. So Jordan Richardson in that blue Honda Civic, currently second position with a little bit of breathing space over the lead RSR BMW of Callum Cripps. Now Dan Herlock is all over the back of his fellow BMW, working their way through his stops there. Now coming through Knickerbrook to see if he can get the traction down when he needs it. Looks like the BMW not quite as much of a dominant force as we saw earlier in the season. There has been a bit of a balance, I think, applied to the BMWs just to take the edge off, but this is real swan song for the Hondas. Both the BMWs flirting with the grass on the outside line of Druids, now coming down towards Lodge Corner again. So 15 lap race, all three races are 15 laps as they spark, as they smash the bottom of Deer Leap. Now can Dan Herlock get the momentum he needs? No, he just cannot overcome the pace of Callum Cripps at the moment, who is hanging on to that third podium spot.
Referring back to the bop you were just talking about, it just shows you how delicate the bop actually is, because if they did modify, which I believe they might have, you could just see that the dominance now the Hondas have just by just adjusting the bops in the BMW's disadvantage has just caused them to potentially lose it. So we do see now there's going to be a lockup there from the RSR of Herlock as he goes for the inside line going into Lakeside. That was a very optimistic move, to say the least. I don't think he intended to do that move, but we do see now the Richard Co BMW going to go for the inside line once again, going into the chicane of Knickersbrook. He is going to have the inside line. Is it going to help him? Yes, it is. He's going to be able to get past, and we can see now the RSR BMW getting all sideways because of the grass, and he's going to be able to maintain and regain his position to go back up into P3.
Dan Herlock does like that car loose. He was sliding all over the place in qualifying. Not out of control. He just seems to like the slidey ways nature of how that car is set up. But my word, that was very well driven from Callum Cripps. He saw that Dan Herlock was banzaiing the inside line, coming through that hairpin. Just let the RSR BMW take the spot and then get the momentum he needed on the exit of that hairpin, and he had the position back by the time they got to Hislop's once again. So Richards leads the way by 4 seconds over fellow Civic Jordan Richardson. Right behind where we're looking, that's Fournier and Wilson arguing. So that's again another pair of BMWs. That's RSR and Richardson Co again that are swap position. Jeffrey Fournier, I beg your pardon, was in the Epic Racing Infinity at the beginning of the season, switched over to RSR as the season progressed, and it's really showing what he is capable of. 1.4 seconds, give or take, behind this particular battle. Again, you see that BMW of Dan Herlock just gets the slide on, doesn't bite into the tarmac as much as the Richardson Co BMW seem to. It doesn't seem to be advantaging or disadvantaging either party. They seem to enjoy the way that their relative cars are set up. You certainly see it. It's the amount of wheel soaring you just about see on camera left there, the amount of steering inputs needing to go on to keep that car on the straight and narrow. As we now look a little bit downfield, that is Matthew Lee, the number 94, getting the move done on the 4. That's Jack London. He's gone past, I think. Yes, it is. That's for 10th position. The chrome colored car. Oh, he's flirting a bit too much with the grass there. He then immediately goes defensive to keep the focus behind. Bit of a lock-up there from Jack London. They don't come together very nicely done. So that's 10th position then to Matt Lee.
Brilliant stuff there. But I was just checking the tyre allocations for this race, and it doesn't seem the top 4 at all are using their option tyre. So it does seem the option tyre doesn't seem to be too powerful in today's race, but we can only judge that with the next 2 races coming and seeing when either Matt Richardson, or we do see Cripps or Herlock's all using the option tyres. I believe they're using them on 2 different races, so that will again give us just a bit of a judge on seeing how good these option tyres are actually around here. But we do see that's going to be a tiny bit of a lock-up there from the Ford of London, trying to gain a tiny bit of time, but he's going to have a tiny bit of a flat spot now as he goes through Lakeside, which will definitely not help him. But going back on board now with the top 4, we can see now the RSR car of Dan Herlock still trying to get by the Richard Co car of Callum Cripps, but still not going to be able to get by just yet. He is just all over the rear as he's propelling himself with that slipstream going up into Clay Hill now, but still not going to be able to get past.
I think the lead car, if I've got this right, the lead car on the option tyres, actually Callum Wilson in 6th position. I think your earlier summation, Alex, that the option tyre is not the favourite one, just burns out too quickly, is proving to be true, because Callum Wilson has not been able to really close in on what we're on Jeff Fournier in 5th position, who's there. And bearing in mind, Jeff Fournier only took that position a couple of laps ago, and he's dropped Callum Wilson by 2 seconds by this point. So those option tyres are absolutely burned. So he's burned the best out of those very, very early on. But Dan Herlock's still trying to find his way past Callum Cripps. Callum Cripps has he gone a little bit too deep? Has he left the door open? You never want to do that with Dan Herlock. Gay left a little bit too much room on that inside line, but has forced the RSR BMW to that outside line. Now his roles reversed from earlier. Oh, Dan Herlock tries to turn in, but the Richardson Co BMW was there. Now that's brought Jeff Fournier into the picture. So that gap that Jeff Fournier was facing now completely gone. So Dan Herlock tries to turn in, but in fairness to Callum Cripps, he was committed. He was definitely there. Just, I don't think Dan Herlock anticipated the Richardson Co BMW closing that gap back down.
Will the two RSR BMWs give each other space? Will we see Dan Herlock letting Fournier by, or are they going to be fighting just as much here? I'm not sure there's going to be any team orders in this, but Richardson Co BMW now of Callum Cripps just starting to get away. As we can see now, the RSR BMW is going to have a tiny bit of pressure now as they both go side by side going in to Lodge Corners. You do see now Fournier is going to be able to get past Herlock with ease there, so I'm assuming there's probably a tiny bit of a team order there if they are in the same chat, so I'm assuming he just let him bite there.
Either that or there's damage, because if you look at Dan Herlock now, he's already half a second off the back of Jeff Fournier. So it could be that impact between Dan Herlock and Callum Cripps has put some damage on the RSR BMW. So now Jeff Fournier in that attacking position. We look a little bit further back now. I believe that is Phil Morby, is it, that we're now looking at? I believe it is. So is it Phil Morby? No, it's Jack London. It's Jack London and Ben Willis, beg your pardon, that we're looking at the moment, because that is Matt Lee just ahead of them at a very distinctive yellow chrome coloured car. Bit of a lock up there from the Ford of Jack London. Again, that's brought Willis and the Cupra right up behind him. Does not make the move though. So is not able to get the traction he needs. The Ford gets the power down and keeps that gap good enough to maintain that 11th position at the moment.
Seems going through the hairpin of Lakeside, it seems that everyone's not expecting there to be no ABS as he's going to go on the grass. It's going to be in a quarter-mile sandwich here, it seems, as we're on board with Christopher now. He's not going to be able to get past just yet, but the Ford of what is going to be Rogers, I believe, has just been able to get by. Christopher's going through Nicholas Brackets now. We can see he's going to try to retaliate with his teammate there of Alan Smith in the quarter-mile car in P16 as we go through, but going back on board now with the fight for the podium here. Callum Cripps still in P3 here, but we do see Fournier still trying to get by, but Cripps is still being able to place his car in a way where legally we can't see Fournier get by, but we do see now again just a bit of flirting with the grass, as you would say. Herlock just being able to keep on with the pack at this rate, so I'm not sure if there is damage.
Was either that or he's burned the best out of those tyres as well, as Jeff Fournier now has a look on the inside line. He was gifted fourth. Is he going to be able to wrestle third? That puts him to the outside line of the hairpin, and he spun. He said, well caught. Sign that man up to the cricket team. That was a perfect catch on the BMW. Now, whether he turned in a bit too early or whether Callum Cripps was a bit too robust in the defence, we couldn't really see from that camera angle, but Jeff Fournier caught it perfectly to prevent him going off into the dust. That has cost him the opportunity for third at the moment.
Does seem that Callum Cripps now just starting to extend that gap because of that issue between the two RSR cars. Obviously amazing, well-held car there by one of the RSRs. I believe it was Herlock who had the issue. But we do now have to see if we can see Fournier getting by, even with probably the tiny bit of damage that you see. We can see now one of the Hondas becoming into sight now, just down in the horizon, going into Lodge Corner. So they might be actually catching up here. So I'm starting to think the Hondas might have burnt their tyres out a tiny bit more than the BMWs.
Well, with only 5 laps to go, they can just manage their pace, and certainly they don't need to worry too much if Jeff Fournier and Callum Cripps are going to continue to argue like this. Dan Herlock's still right with him in case he does go wrong. So maybe there wasn't too much damage. Maybe it's just tyres overheating. But Jeff Fournier again in prime opportunity here to try and attack as they come down to the hairpin. Once again, that's Cripps has gone a tiny bit deep on the exit of Cascade. Does not seem to cost him on this occasion. Down into the hairpin braking zone once again. All 3 of these BMWs remaining as they are and staying well behaved. Again, that slide, that distinctive, very loose setup that Dan Herlock seems to favour. Doesn't favour him, though, on the exit of that hairpin. Down into Hislop's once more. And again, no opportunity being given from Callum Cripps. Now, if he could well be examined after the race if it's felt he's been a little bit too robust with his defence. We will see. That's not up to us. That's the steward's job. So Matt Richards, his lead is diminished a little bit, but he's probably just managing things at this stage. Doesn't need to push. Still with over 3 seconds to the good between himself and his fellow Honda of Jordan Richardson. But all eyes at the moment on this battle for third. Again, you see Callum Cripps goes to that defensive posture to prevent the RSR BMW trying to banzai the inside. Coming down towards Lodge Corner once again. They remain as they are with 4 laps to go.
It looks like the RSR cars are just like a lion ready to pounce onto their prey, but we do now see it's going to be Cripps just losing a tiny bit of time after a mistake going through turn 1. But we do see now going into the Cascades. This is usually where we see the RSR cars starting to gain a tiny bit of time. It does seem to be where Fournier's preference part of the track is. This is where he is the most confident, but we do see now going in to the Lakeside hairpin here. We do see he's going to gain a lot of time under braking, but can he do anything going through the exit of the Lakeside chicane? But we do go back on board now with the Brabham Esports car, who's trying to get by Phil Morby here as he goes for a humongous lunge there. Morby going into the Lakeside hairpin there, but we do still see the Brabham Esports car behind Wire having to try to do anything he has left to try and get past it. He's going to go for a bit of a lunge going into Knickersbrook. Yes, he is. It's going to be a tiny bit of touch between them both. That's going to sound Phil Morby flying, but they're both going to be going quite wide there. That's going to lead the high Honda by, and there's going to be contact between the 3 drivers.
Oh dear, Cito Vaya pushing a little bit too hard now. He is on the option tire, and those are probably absolute sponge by now. So he may well have not had an awful lot left. Now he's under pressure by Jack London as we come back to the battle for third position. Cripps still defends on the inside line. A big slide from Jeff Fournier coming through large corner on this lap. And 3 to go. The BMW still tied together by nothing. That's Dan Herlock's fallen a little bit off the back of this particular pack. And again, I'm looking at that Honda as well. It does seem like that these BMWs are closing in on it, Alex, so I think you may well be right there. Ooh, was that a bit uncomfortable there for Fournier? The BMW looked like he was getting a little bit too squeaky coming under braking. That's not prevented him from getting the momentum he needs. He goes to the outside line. He was forced to. Oh, he's touched, and again they touch coming into the hairpin. Oh my goodness me. I think again Fournier is trying to outbrake Callum Cripps with the Richardson Co BMW is not having any of it. They remain as they are once again for now.
As we remain with just barely a few laps left to go, they are going to become a bit more impatient. They're going to make a few more optimistic moves, to say the least, like what we just saw going into the hairpin. We do see now the RSR car of Fournier once again gaining and propelling under the slipstream that he has going into Clay Hill and Water Tower. Will he try to do something going into Druid's Corner? It's a very, very optimistic move if he tries to. He looks like he would try to go for a move down the inside. He just went for a tiny bit of a juke there, as you could see, unless he was trying to save the car from an oversteer moment. But we do see now he might try and brake a tiny bit later, but he's not got a lot of time left to try and get past this Richardson Co BMW 3 Series.
Very, very true. And all the time that they fight, that's giving Jordan Richardson the opportunity to break away. Again, you see Cripps go very defensive very early, actually, coming up into Old Hall Corner. Now, that wrong-footed him for Jeff Fournier to try and get the momentum. And no, still glued, pushing the Richardson Co BMW down the hill. He's trying to wrong-foot Callum Cripps, trying to get him just slightly out of rhythm to then get that extra bit of momentum that he needs to get past the Richardson Co BMW. Fournier not able to get past. Dan Herlock's now closing in. So is Dan going to now get involved in this battle for third once again? Bit of a slide there from Callum Cripps. Is that going to deny him the momentum he needs? Not quite. These Beamers are big old beasts, and there's not a lot of road out there. Just 1.5 laps to go.
Even with now the BMW fighting, we do actually see the Richardson, the Honda, is actually losing time still when they're even battling. So that is just showing there is a tiny bit of a tie degrade there from the Honda. But we do see they go side by side here, going in to now Clay Hill and Water Tower. He isn't going to be able to get past once again. Callum Cripps just, again, just not mesmerized, but you can just tell he's predicting every move that we'll see the RSR car trying to make here. Again, we're going to see Fournier start making some optimistic moves, but we do see going in to what is going to be Lodge Corner. He is going to once again try to go for the outside line, but we do see Callum Cripps just again gluing himself to the inside line to not even give him a chance. But we see once again squeezing him onto the grass, and now we're just practically pushing him going across the line.
This is all just very, very good car positioning from Callum Cripps coming through Old Hall. Oh, that was Dan Herlock that was really getting a bit squiggly. These three, you could walk from one to the other if they were stationary with these kind of gaps. Through Cascades once again, and that's trouble for Fournier. He's caught it again. My goodness me, he needs to be playing cricket or baseball with catches like that. And immediately closes straight back in on Callum Cripps. Wow, that was incredible. The recovery he just put in and still able to recover the car quick enough. We go a little bit further down to the next of the Hondas, which is going to be... That's Matt Richards. So big pardon, that's our race leader. I thought we'd gone down through the field because he's actually picking up some of the back markers here. So unchallenged in his dominance of the race, had an absolutely superb start. And Fournier and Cripps, we can see on the tower, are having an argument still for third position, just on them at the back of the shot. But Matt Richards is going to take the first win of the night. Your winner for race number 1 here at Oulton Park, Matt Richards, car number 4 for Vapor Shield Racing in the Civics. Second is going to be Jordan Richardson in the next of the Civics, with Callum Cripps just and only just fending off the advantage of Jeff Fournier for third. Dan Herlock comes home 5th. Callum Wilson claims 6th. Chase Homer, Matt Allington in 7th, with Phil Bobby 8th. Matt Lee starting near the back and finishing in 9th in the end. And the Hyundai, very nicely done. Jack London in 10th, Cedar Fire 11th. Jack Kowalski in 12th, Ben Willis 13th, Mitch Murray 14th, Ty Cuthbert in 15th with Alan Smith, 16th, Adam Christopher in 17th, Max Spooner in 18th, Rogers in 19th, and McCready rounding out your top 20. Sam Dowman and Lopez, your final running cars. We lost Joao Belto and Nathan Kirk in that part of the race as the Civics are close together on the closing lap. But wow, once again, our touring cars putting on a great show.
100%. And I've got to say, the 3 BMWs from P3 all the way to P5 provided racing for the entire race. I know it's only 15 laps, but for how close they were going and the very scary moments that we did see going into the hairpin of Lakeside, I didn't think it would have lasted that long at all. But again, brilliant job from Callum Cripps to get P3. Definitely deserves it after the amount of defending and stress that he was just put through over that last 20 odd minutes or so. But again, Fournier could be able to do it.
So, yeah, exactly as you say. There was just a couple of possibly a little bit too robust defensive moves from Callum Cripps, but either way, the Richards & Co BMW claims that podium spot for the time being. So here's the replay of the start. That you've got Callum Cripps starting in pole with Matt Richards and just gets that wheel spin absolutely right. And look at the extra momentum that the Civic gets off the line against the Richards & Co BMW. Then you have Dan Herlock thinking about an outside maneuver coming down into Old Hall Corner. Gets a little bit alongside. The Honda is just checked out already by now. And that was a lead he was not to relinquish. So Dan Herlock forced a little bit too wide. Then the next of the Richards & Co BMWs comes in to get involved in this particular battle. So Cedo Vai, you can see in the Brabham car as well, had a pretty good start, but wasn't able to hang on to that. Jordan Richardson, down in 5th position at this point, was able to come through in 2nd ahead of the BMWs.
We do just go back on waiting for race 2 to start here. Obviously, I'm going to say it again, because obviously we have a tiny bit of time to kill. But out of all of the battles that you remember, what was your favourite? Because there wasn't actually too many for tonight, and I apologise for the the commentator's curse that I did to everyone earlier.
I mean, you can't take it away from what we enjoyed from Callum Cripps against both the RSR BMWs of Jeff Fournier and Dan Herlock. That was an absolute storming battle. I mean, the thing is, though, there's so many cars and only a certain number of us. We couldn't look at the battle slightly further down the field. We were all focusing on that podium battle. Not to take away from Jordan Richardson either, who managed to pick his way through the BMWs and manage his pace for second position. So very nicely done indeed. But wow, that was absolutely superb. Very well driven indeed. So the grid for race number 2 is formed from the results of race number 1. A few more drivers are running the option tyre this time. So the softer of the compounds, which may or may not work for them. From what we've seen in race 1, the option tyre really did not pay any dividends at all. But this is how the results stand. So Matt Richards for Vapor Shield Racing alongside Jordan Richardson. So the Vapor Shield 1-2 in race number 1. There's Callum Cripps in 3rd, Jeff Fournier 4th, Dan Herlock in 5th, Callum Wilson in 6th, Matt Arlington in 7th, Phil Morby in 8th, Matthew Lee in 9th, with Jack London rounding out the top 10. These are the positions they will start in. Cedar Vire finished 11th with Jacob Kowalski in 12th, Ben Willis 13th, Mitch Marie 14th, Ty Cuthbert in 15th, Alan Smith in 16th, Adam Christopher in 17th, Max Spooner in 18th, Oliver Rogers in 19th, Stephen McCready rounding out the top 20. Those that didn't have quite as good a run through race 1 will be starting towards the tail end of. So Sam Dowman in 21st, Tiago Lopez 22nd, and Joao Belto and Nathan Croak did not see the flag in race number 1, so they will be starting at the tail end of this particular field. Now, the drivers running the options tyre this time, Dan Herlock, quite notably, is running the option, so that's going to be quite interesting to keep an eye on. So very 100%. Much looking forward to that. Dan Herlock is going to be starting in 5th position in this grid. So he will have that early advantage, and if he can get enough of if he's got enough of a gap by the time those tires burn out, that may well be enough. But this is such a tire muncher, this circuit, so we will see if we'll see if he is able to build up that gap, or if he just gets caught in traffic with the 4 cars ahead of him. Matt Richards is running the option tyre. Now, again, he was absolutely storming on the prime tyre. Will that pay dividends for him on the option tyre? Then you've got Mitch Marie, Chris Shepard, beg your pardon, Chris Shepard's not with us, Matt Arlington and Jack London running the options, along with Jordan Richardson, Jacob Kowalski, Callum Cripps, Ty Cuthbert, Oliver Rogers, and Jeff Fournier. Again, Jeff Fournier starting in 4th on those option tyre. He was hustling hard, Callum Cripps, all race long. So will that option tyre be what he needs to overcome the lead of the RSR BMWs, or will Callum Cripps be able to fend him off? Again, we will have to see when we get to race number 2 underway very, very shortly.
100%. And in terms of driver of the day for race 1, I'm going to have to say, and I'm not being biased here at all, but I'm going to have to say Ty Cuthbert. I believe that might have been his best performance in terms of position finishing in a race. I think he started, was it P21, I believe, going up into P15. Obviously, there was that crash on lap 1, I believe, going into Lakeside. That did obviously give him a tiny bit of an advantage, you could say, but he also had to dodge all of those cars. But in terms of the cars you had to say, I'm pretty sure you know what's coming here, Chris. But what do you think would have been your driver of the day pick for today?
Callum Cripps with that defensive performance was superb. There were a couple of moments where I thought, was that a little bit too much? But again, his car positioning was absolutely perfect. A few bumps and scrapes, but that's what touring cars are about. They can take it. I would definitely vote Callum Cripps on that one. Make it known in chat who you're here to support. We've got a few participants. And also true, Chris, Jeff starting in 11th and finishing 3rd. Nathan Croak, his game won't reopen. That is a great shame. See, Nathan had a bit of trouble getting off the grid by the look of it. So as we look at the as we relook at the calendar, whilst the grid is formed for race number 2, Croft is going to be an interim. Croft is similar to Oulton in the sense of it's very twisty and very quick. So an absolute tire muncher is what we're going to look forward to in 2 weeks' time. So the BMWs seem not to be quite as strong, whether that's down to the balance of performance or whether that is down to just the nature of the circuit. Whatever it is, the BMWs don't quite seem to have the edge over the Hondas. Rear-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive, again, take it as you will. But, I mean, you can't deny that start from Matt Richards was absolutely superb.
Oh, 100% it was. Matt Richards obviously becoming the leader of the first race. Again, he was very isolated during the race, which is very ideal for what you want in this kind of series, just having quite a calm race and still being able to be crowned the victory for the first race. Jordan Richardson was seeming to struggle a tiny bit going on to the final parts of that race, as we did see the 3 BMWs were just starting to catch up at the end. But again, Callum Cripps just being able to defend that line for that long and being able to glue himself to the line where no car could pass, such as Fournier and Herlock for, I'm pretty sure it was the entire race.
I believe so, yes. Just waiting for the Fournier bottled quali. Well, you certainly put on some great moves towards the end. And you make a good point as well, Alex, that if Jordan Richardson was beginning to struggle towards the end of that race on the prime tyre, these option ones are just going to turn to utter sponge. So that's going to be interesting to see. So we're just hopefully getting the last few issues sorted out, and we'll get this next race underway very, very soon.
Now, is this the first race we've had with the Honda? Because the Hyundai, because it's been a long day, all right. But I don't think I've seen the Hyundai this season. Is it new or is it? Oh, well, have we seen it before?
That is a superb question. I don't think we saw it at the beginning of the season, so it has come to join us at some point in the last few rounds. So, okay, we're only on round 5, so we have only had 4. But I don't think we saw the Hyundais at the beginning. Joined us in the Donington race. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Nathan. So it's I don't think it was. I think it was in the initial spotters guide that we were given. I know that spotters guide has changed. Hard is the option tire for tonight. Very true. So those that are running the option, and everybody has to run it. They don't have a choice to only run the prime. Everybody has got to run the option tire. They can only run it once. But they must run it at some point. So do they choose to get it out of the way first, which only 8 drivers did? Most drivers going for this race, the second race, to get the option tire out of the way, or do they do it on the reverse grid and see what happens? I don't know. I mean, when you've got the tire that won't behave itself or doesn't, isn't the real one to use, I don't know. Where do you run it? What would your thoughts be there, Alex?
Well, ideally, this is from my perspective. Obviously, drivers will probably disagree with my perspective. But ideally, in my situation, I would want to be running it where the least amount of people are using it. And that's so when you have the grid with the most amount of it, you're on those hard tires, and you should, theoretically, of what we saw during the first race, be able to get by quite easily. But now I've said that, I'm not sure, because I like to overthink these kind of things. But what about you, Chris?
See, if in this situation, I would have wanted to get the option tire out of the way. I would have done it first. But then you've got another caveat there, is that if you run it first and then you've got to relearn how your car behaves on tires that won't bite so early. So it really depends how well you're able to adapt from one race to the next.
That is true. I think going on to race 2, this race, there we go, as we do get the grid starting to formulate. What I was going to say for race 2, obviously it being the most populated option tyre race for tonight. I believe most of the front runners are using it, so we might see a driver from the mid pack actually starting to show their dominance during this second race.
We will see. But again, it all depends. I think drivers that are running the option tire are going to be banking on trying to get that early breakaway, which you might argue you always want to have that early breakaway with the option tire. However, that point is more moot if the option tire doesn't, really drop away significantly before the end of the race. Whereas what we've seen, or what we suspect at least, is that the option tire is going to be utter sponge. I don't know, but probably about halfway or so. So there's a significant percentage of the race still to run where the tires really will not want to behave themselves. So it's going to be interesting to see where, and we have seen it before. I think we saw it at Donington where the soft tires had that really early advantage, and then that advantage just vanished before the checkered flag fell. Matt Richards, it looked like he forgot which version of the circuit we were going on. He thought he was going to go for the full one. For a second there, I thought he was going to go for a bit of a wander around the Cheshire countryside. But either way, we now have got the rolling lap for race number 2 underway. Again, apologies for the delay with this one. We are now up and running. So the Hondas are quite keen to get on with it. The BMWs are saying, you know what? Yeah, let's just take our time here. The Hondas like, come on!
Well, hopefully they can win again, because we haven't seen... Have we seen a Honda win this season? I know I was off for Silverstone, but I don't think we... Have we? Or have we not?
We've seen a few people win, but unfortunately I haven't got the championship standings to hand, so I'm not 100% sure who has won what. But we certainly haven't seen the Hondas run off into the distance quite the way that we saw in race number 1, but can they do it again? So running the option tire, we are about to find out as Matt Richards is leading the field. Look at the BMWs. They're like, you carry on. We're good back here. This very much
categories of this, right?
Yeah, this actually reminds me. I remember seeing a driver taking part in a club racing event. He was running 2 cars. He was running a Mazda RX-7 and a TVR Tuscan. You want to talk about opposites? And he described the Tuscan as like, a gentleman with his pipe in his chair, just sitting there going, yes, I've got plenty more to give. And the Mazda as like a terrier going, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Which is exactly what the Hondas and the BMWs just reminded me of. Right, enough waffle, Buxton. We are now forming the grid for the second time tonight here in Oulton Park. The Honda's poised, ready to go, and we are racing again. Another stormer from the Hondas. This time, Callum Cripps is bolted to the back of Jordan Richardson with Dan Herlock in our pursuit. That's Jeff Fournier that's gone for a bit of a... He's done it again. He's superb at catching that BMW. But look at Herlock having a go at Callum Cripps already trying to wrong foot. The Richardson car BMW coming down through Cascades. Can't quite get it done. And that's one of the Cupras on his tail. Is that Phil Morby that is coming up and having a go? We'll see. Side by side, not going to work. Oh, talk about a banzai. My God. That, I think, was Matt Allington that has had a big old game. It was Phil Morby that has managed to hang on to 5th position. Great start for him in the Drake Racing Cupra, but then had to fend off the advances of Matt Allington that tried a big old move on the inside line coming up towards the hairpin. Didn't quite work, but so far so good from the field.
Now, what's interesting between the 2 rival BMW teams here is we actually do see now Phil Morby put a bit of pressure on Fournier as we go into Clay Hill. He's going to go very, very off the inside line there, go off the track almost. And we do now see it's still going to be Phil Morby actually struggling a tiny bit now, as we do also see the Ford starting to gain a tiny bit of traction, but we do now see Phil Morby going for the outside line going into Lodge Corner. Is he going to be able to make it stick? No, he is not. In fact, he's lost even more time, as we do now see the Ford behind going into the start-finish straight. For the first time here tonight, we will start seeing him creeping towards the inside line, but he isn't going to be able to make it stick. But what I was saying, between the 2 BMWs, Callum Cripps is the one on the option tire compared to Fournier, so that is going to make a significant difference halfway through the race. But we do already see Cripps is just starting to create quite a big gap so far, so this is ideal for his current situation.
Now, Matt Richards would very much like for the field behind him to continue to fight, because Matt Richards is on that Oulton tire as that's Phil Morby again. Has a look on the inside of Dan Herlock coming down to the chicane. That's Cedo Fire having an argument with Matthew Lee for what I think is 7th position as they come through the hairpin as well. Look at this pack. Look at Herlock again having to go or thinking about a move into Knickerbrook on Callum Cripps. Can't quite get the traction he needs, but he's all over the back once again of the Richards & Co BMW. But Callum Cripps able to make that BMW the widest thing in the world at the moment, but he's got a whole world of pressure on his case. Dan Herlock trying to find a way to wrong foot Callum Cripps. How many times have these two crossed swords? Someone's kicked up a bit of dust, and that's Dan Herlock trying to get alongside, coming up towards Lodge Corner once again. He gets alongside. Ew, they're getting a bit squiggly. That's going to hurt the RSR BMW. Big slide on the exit. Now, is this an opportunity for Phil Morby to get the momentum as they come up towards Old Hall Corner once again? No, somehow Dan Herlock, I don't know how he does it. He just gets the slide on every single time, somehow maintains his momentum. Oh, Phil Morby, just as I say that, he's having to go, is he? No, not quite. But here comes Matthew Lee now getting involved. Matt Allington's going to have that particular pressure. Dan Herlock's going to go squiggly. Oh no, I've commentated curse Phil Morby as he's gone too deep into Cascades and gone off and exploring the Cheshire countryside.
Now, this isn't ideal at all for Cripps' situation. Now, with him being on the softer compounded tyre, he ideally wants to be able to preserve this for as long as he can. But with the amount of pressure that he is currently being received, with obviously Dan Herlock and Allington both behind him, we can actually see them both again going into Knickerbrook, starting to have a tiny bit of, well, again, a tiny bit of a side-by-side moment here, but we do now see it's going to be the Ford of Allington who's got to catch up to Herlock, and this is what Cripps wants to see. These cars behind starting to gain a tiny bit of pressure for now Herlock, as we do see going in to Giroud's corner. He's not going to be able to get past just yet. He looked like he was going for a move there, but wasn't able to commit to it, as we do also see the Hyundai behind actually making some good progress so far.
Absolutely. So Dan Herlock had a big old amount of defensive work to do against Matt Allington, who is on the softer tyres. Ty Cuthbert seems to have had trouble. He's lost a few positions. Oh, Ty Cuthbert looks like he's out, so he's had a big incident somewhere. That is a great shame, but as we keep an eye a little bit further up, so Richards and Richardson with a bit of breathing space. Cedo Fire's got a little bit too deep going through an old hall, but does manage to keep all four wheels pointing the right way with, that is Ben Willis, who's right behind him. A little bit further back, Oliver Richards, that is now right in the middle of this particular group. This is a battle for 13th place. Joel Belter, who was out in the first race, all the way up to 13th, actually grounds out as he was coming through Cascades. He's lost one. He's going to lose two. The Calamity pair. Oh, well, that was teamwork for you. Very, very nicely done. Oh, no! As Oliver Richards tried to push Jack London through, Jack's gone too deep, and now Oliver Richards are going to run off.
You can blame Chris for all of the commentators' curse. I've done nothing.
I'll take that one. I'll take that one. Oh, goodness me. Back up to Dan Herlock then, arguing for third position against Callum Cripps. Right behind him, Matt Allington and Matthew Lee. Who's now Matthew Lee up into 6th position now. So superb effort there. I think he started in 9th, I think it was. So he's been really working his way through the field all night long. As again, Herlock thinks about outside, coming down into Lodge Corner, gets the inside line this time, manages to cut underneath the Richards & Co BMW, gets him a bit of a door bang, now has the inside line coming up to Old Hall Corner. Is this going to win out for RSR, or can... Oh, yes it does. So he runs out of the road. Finally, Callum Cripps has been wrestled out of that podium position, and that is third to Dan Herlock.
This is the time of race where we start seeing the softer compound, the option tyre, starting to fade off now, as we can see now Daniel Herlock going up into P3, but we also see Allington still putting just as much pressure as Herlock was as they go side by side going in to Lake Hill. Hairpin there, as we do see now the Hyundai trying to get a bit of a retaliation out on the Ford of Allington, just to try gain this position to go into P5. Just again, he needs to balance how much he's attacking and also defending at the same time here, the Ford of Allington, just because if he makes the risk of trying to attack too much onto Cripps, who is definitely the slower driver now, unfortunately, he's just going to lose more time, and we could see Matthew Lee and the Brabham Esports cars behind just get past him.
Truth alive, this pack is just absolutely alive. Matthew Lee, though, is looking to size up Matt Allington as they come through Druids. Now heading towards Lodge, and again the Hyundai flirts with the grass. Somehow doesn't seem to lose any momentum by doing so. Cedo Fire in the Brabham car right behind him. So you can't afford to do that too many times. And then right behind Cedo Fire is Ben Willis in the lead of the Drake cars. Coming over the line, that's Matt Allington that is putting the pressure on Callum Cripps. Can he get alongside the Richardson Co BMW? No, not quite, as we see Cedo Fire also fending off Ben Willis. Here comes Matthew Lee. Now what can he do? These three almost touching as they go through the Avenue, Dentons, Cascades once again. And they live to drive another corner as Matt Allington, has he got the momentum he needs? He's on the option tyre, whatever life he's got left in them, trying to deploy them, trying to outbrake the BMW. That's going to force him to the outside line, and that is going to lose him a position because Matt Lee, brilliant opportunistic manoeuvre in the Hyundai on the prime tyre as well, gets the position, but can he hold it as Matt Allington gets a brilliant amount of momentum on the exit of the hairpin. Matt Lee's still there though, tries to muscle his way through. He does lose out of the position. Matt Allington's a bit squiggly. Oh my goodness me, that's still going on. Now Cedo Fire gets on the inside line of Matthew Lee, so Matthew Lee now loses a spot to the Brabham car, and also is he going to lose one to Ben Willis, who's gone onto the grass on the way to Water Tower? No, Ben Willis, because of that, is forced to go behind the Hyundai. Cedo Fire has now gone too deep. Is that going to give the opportunity back to Matthew Lee to gain up into 6th position? Not quite. Here comes Ben Willis now. I can't say it all. It's all happening too quickly. That's a good move there from Ben Willis. Again, an opportunistic move with Matthew Lee wrong-footed. He got the momentum where he needed it and gets the Drake Racing Cupra up into 7th.
Again, what you just said sums it. You can't say everything, but we do now see the Hyundai just going for a tiny bit of a move there on the quarter mass car, even though it's the other way around there, as we can actually see it's going to be Christopher trying to go for the outside line going into Cascades, but unfortunately though, the Hyundai has the higher speed there, as we do now going back on board now with Daniel Herlock, as he's trying to get past one of the Hondas. It's not so easy now for Richardson this time round, as he has now the immense amount of pressure of Daniel Herlock behind in the RSR BMW 3 Series. As we go down in to Nickersbrook once again, we can see he's just going to try and go for a tiny bit of a lunge there. He gets for the inside line. There's going to be contact between the two drivers. They both go send flying, but luckily they both stay on the racing surface there, as we do see now Daniel Herlock just giving up that position, and luckily they stay in the same place.
Yeah, nice sportsmanship there from the RSR BMW, but that's dropped them a long way back from Matt Richards up top. So that's actually put them in a dangerous spot, because now Callum Cripps and the pack he's dragging are now snapping at the heels of Dan Herlock and Jordan Richardson. So here comes the BMW again. Now our top three are all running the option tyre, so they're all going to have the same tyre struggles at the same time. So who in this top group is not running the option tyre is going to, well, Callum, I think Callum Cripps might not be. A little bit further down though, Matt Allington and Cedo Fire. So Cedo Fire did not have a good run, it looks like, coming out of Old Lodge Corner, but that's going to run too deep though for the Ford. He does manage to prevent the car from going off wildly, as he's now got Ben Willis on his inside line. Here comes Matt Lee to try and get involved. Matt Allington still defending the inside line, coming through Cascades. Nice racing room given by both drivers, but that he's going to have to give that one up side by side again. Dan Herlock, Jacob Richardson. Jordan Richardson, beg your pardon, the Honda still trying to defend the inside line, does manage to get it done and maintain second position for the Honda.
Yeah, brilliant racing once again. But what we could say, if we don't see Daniel Herlock going sideways into a corner, we can find it peculiar now, as we do see him going for a lunge going into Nickersbrook once again. He's going to have the inside line going into the second part. Again, tiny bits of contacts there as he has the inside line going in to Clay Hill. Now, it does seem now Daniel Herlock has been able to get by, but they have lost so much time now. We could see retaliation, obviously, from Richardson, as they're both on the same tyres. They're going to be similar pace there, but we go further down again. Allington in PA in that Ford, looking to try and get by Matthew Lee in that Hyundai once again, but he has that quarter mass behind him, just again putting pressure on him at any time now, as we do see Christopher just going on the grass to look for a move there, but wrong part of the track, good sir.
Oh, Matt Allington's wrong-footed. He's gone too deep into Lodge Corner. Adam Christopher's got the momentum in the quartermass car, does manage to get the position. So that is Matt Allington down into 9th position. The quartermass car up into 8th, with Phil Morby looking to get involved in it as well. As just as I say that, the commentator's strong. Commentator's curse is strong in me. I can't even say it, for goodness sake. It's been a long day. Oh, hello, nearly 3 wide. So that's Jordan Richardson in all kinds of trouble. He's got Cedar Fire on one side. Oh, no, he's off. That's impact, and that's taking the Drake car with him. That's a big impact for Jordan Richardson. Oh, from a podium position and now tumbling down through the field. Well, that is a huge, huge shame for the Civic. It was looking so strong. Sadly, his podium challenge coming to an end.
This is again just threw a spanner in the works now for who could take the podium positions. Cripps, who has still got P3, just hanging on to it barely with his softer tyres, but how long can he actually keep it on? No, as we can see now, wire behind in the Brabham Esports Toyota, which could make it a very, very diverse podium if he's able to succeed with all 3 different manufacturers. Could potentially take the podium here tonight, but we do have to see Wire having to do the thing that Daniel Hurlock couldn't do to get past Cripps. In race 1 here. We've been in a similar situation before. Cripps is very, very talented when it comes to defending here, but can Wire be the one that breaks that streak here, as we do see now going back on to the start-finish line? There is quite a big gap once again, so I'm starting to think now Cripps has gained some sort of tire life somewhere, and now he's been able to gain some sort of pace once again, leaving him less vulnerable than he was earlier. But we do see that's got the car off as well. I believe that's either Morby or Christopher in the background, who just went off at turn 1.
I couldn't quite see who that was. That has not got Old Hall corner quite right. But either way, here comes Cedar Fire again on the outside line this time. And that line is never going to work. It's more to try and wrong foot the car you're challenging into that hairpin to try and disrupt their momentum. Doesn't pay off, though. All that's going to do is bring Matthew Lee, who's now up into 5th position, into this particular battle. There's Dan Hurlock just going through the camera. Now, is he going to be able to eat away at that gap that Matt Richards has for himself? We will see. So Richards, 4-ish seconds or near enough to the good. Then is Dan Hurlock, who's got 1.7 over this pack that's following him. As we now look at Matt Arnington, who's the back of this particular group. It's fragmented slightly from when it was second down to 10th at one stage. So Matt Arnington still looking in the back of Phil Morby. It's trouble somewhere in sector 1 for somebody. As again the YTF car. Oh, we're right on board with Cedar Fire in the Brabham Toyota on the back of Callum Cripps in the Richardson Co BMW. Now coming through Old Hall into the avenues. Then you flick right down the hill, enough to leave your lunch behind as you then go through Cascades. Jeff Fournier, who's had a hell of a race at some point, as we've lost Lopez from the race as well. So Jeff Fournier, bearing in mind he was right up in these podium positions early on, fell right the way down to the back of the field. We didn't see what happened to him, unfortunately. Has just set the fastest lap of the race, so plenty of pace still in that RSR BMW. But as we come through the hairpin, now screaming towards his lops, and Callum Cripps, that's where those soft tires really come good and keep enough of a gap between himself and his pursuers. Cedar Fire getting a bit uncomfortable coming through his stops now through Knickerbrook. As we come up to Clay Hill, you can see Dan Hurlock just in the distance, maybe a little bit out of reach at the moment. Cedar Fire in a real position, strong position here. I'm not entirely sure Cedar Fire has actually had a podium in this season. Oh, that's a lot of right that he needs to put in. That's a bit of a flirt with the grass, but Callum Cripps didn't do an awful lot better. As we head now towards Lodge. And then this drop here is really, really lunch leaving. And then you bottom out as you get through Deerleap. And that is a lap as on board with the Brabham Motorsport Toyota. He's still got Matthew Lee staring at his exhaust pipe. So Cedar Fire can't just concentrate forward as we have 4 laps to go.
These top guys are starting to become very isolated. Quite big gaps have started to form, but this is not the same here as we do see now. Callum Wilson trying to get by. Now Rogers going into the start-finish line. He's got to have the inside line going into Old Hall corner, but unfortunately he loses it there as the Ford has a better exit. As we do see, he's actually got the lunge for the inside line once again as I predicted, and that is going to be him up into P12. And now we can see them both fighting with each other there. I believe they're the Calamity cars there. They're both the Fords again fighting with each other as they get a huge compression going down the dip going into Cascades. As we do go back on board now with Wyatt, who does seem to be losing time now as it stands between Cribs in on those softer tires, the option tires. So that is starting to be interesting. Unless this is some sort of an anomaly for these tires, it does seem Cribs is doing rather well for himself on those softer tires.
Well, Sidovaya still in a prime attacking position as again we see a bit of dust being kicked up there by Dan Herlock. He's got that gap down to 2 seconds. Sidovaya even feeling the opportunity to have a look on the inside line coming up to Lodge corner. Big slide from the Ritters & Co BMW. Sidovaya can't use any momentum advantage there. Over the line once more. 3 laps remain in the second race here at Oulton Park. Into Old Hall again. Sidovaya just almost getting the BMW to run a little bit too deep. But Callum Cripps, perfect line, perfect defensive play. We saw how well he was able to position his car in the first race to keep what must have felt like a whole world of RSR pressure at bay. So far, he is able to keep the Brabham Motorsports Toyota at bay. This has been where that BMW has been able to really power out of the corners and just build up enough of a gap to keep the Toyota at bay, and then is in the twisty bits that the Toyota seems to have a bit of an advantage, so closes back in on the back of Cripps, does Sidovaya, but is just not able to get enough to get past the Beamer. So he's got another 2 and a bit laps to figure out how to steal away that podium spot.
And I said this last race, is that we actually see him now trying the move going in to Clay Hill and Water Tower. It's just that time of race now where we're seeing the people who are very close with each other starting to have a bit more of an impatient lunge, like here potentially, as it looks like Wyatt almost set his car up for a bit of a lunge going in to Lodge Corner, going in to Deal Leap. Now we do see just how much of a bottoming out we see from the BMWs compared to the Toyota there, and that is going to lose him a significant amount of time and speed as we go on into Old Hall Corner. Once again, this is where we do see the BMWs are not as struggling as much, but we go on board now with the 2 Cupra shows. We do see Ben Willis and the Drake Racing having a tiny bit of pressure now from Christopher. No, that's not Christopher, that's Spooner, sorry, in the Quartermass Racing Cupra. As we do also see that's going to be one of the RSR cars going very, very wide. That is going to be, I believe, I'm not sure who that is, or that might be
Fortier. I think it's Jeff Fortier. Yeah. That's a lap down, unfortunately. Still giving it plenty of beans, mind you. But yes, such has been how his race has really unraveled. He finds himself down towards the back of the field. But we jump back to this battle for third place. The last of the podium spots under all kinds of pressure. Dan Herlock, he's gotten that gap under 1.5 seconds between himself and Matt Richards. And Dan Herlock is running the option tyre. Has he got any of it left to try and challenge for the lead? We will see. But Sidovaya still trying to find his way past Callum Cripps, who I believe Callum is running the option tyre. He is, but Sidovaya is not. He ran his in the first race. So there is a tyre difference between the two, but how much tyre life does Callum have left? That is going to be the optimum question. Does he have enough to keep that Toyota at bay? It's Sidovaya tries to muscle his way past. He wants the inside line coming up towards Old Hall. He's got the overlap. He's alongside. And has he managed to get the momentum at the crucial time as we saw the final lap? But can he hold it up into third? Does Callum Cripps try and cut underneath him? Has he got any tires to defend? No, the BMW slots in behind the Toyota. So Callum Cripps, then thought about an inside banzai coming down to the Cascades. It would have been brave if he doesn't have the tyres. And look at the gap that Sidovaya already, just in a single corner, has managed to build up. Now into the braking zone. And again, Callum Cripps, I think that was more avoidance than anything else. He suddenly went to the inside line. But Sidovaya up into third may well have timed his attack perfectly well. Dan Herlock is still closing in on Matt Richards, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough unless the Honda makes a mistake.
Again, this is where Callum Cripps is probably beating himself up there, as all he needed to do was hold him off for one more lap at just a few corners. We see now Matt Richards approaching the final few corners as we go into Clay Hill and Water Tower for the final time of race 2 to hopefully bag a second win here as we go down the final small straight. We do actually see Daniel Herlock, though, behind in the BMW 3 Series as well, starting to gain time, but it's not going to be enough time, it seems, as we go through Lodge Corner and Deer Leap one more time. As we do see Dan Herlock going so sideways there, going through the final corner, but it's going to be Matt Richards again taking the race win for race 2 here, almost making it a hat-trick for himself. Dan Herlock taking P2, as well as Wire rounding out the podium. Cripps not going to be too happy with that.
Well, maybe, but I think Callum Cripps had no tyres left. And that, I think those option tyres just giving out on him at the wrong moment. And Sidovaya was in the right place at the right time to capitalise. And Matt Lee in 5th. Adam Christopher up into 6th position. Phil Bobby 7th. Matt Allington 8th. Ben Willis 9th, and Max Spooner rounding out your top 10. But Matt Richards, once again, is untouchable. He probably felt a little bit more pressure towards the end, but I think he probably knew he had it in hand, that he had enough tires, he had enough time to keep that win to himself. Very nicely done. Good to see some interaction from you lovely people in chat. So, my goodness me, that was really quite something. Again, our TCR cars giving us a great show as Matt Richards. He's seen the BMWs going slideways and fancies a bit of it. Why not? As we are looking at, well, it's not quite our top three because Matt Lee is in there. He wasn't on the podium. Wasn't far off it, mind you. Was not far off it at all. Superb stuff. So, the way that the grid is formed for race number 3 is as follows. So, it's the finishing results we have just seen with anywhere from the top 6 to the top 12 reversed. Now, how many of those top 12 are reversed is randomly chosen either by production with the spinning wheel or off camera. Not sure which one we're doing tonight, but that number will be decided. So either the top 6, top 7, 8, 9, 10, or 12, 10, 11, or 12 will then be reversed. So from the finishing result we've just seen, anywhere from 6th to 12th will then be reversed, and anyone finishing 13th and downwards will be starting in the position in which they finished. Now, I personally, this is something we talk about. Well, before we go into that, let's have a look at how the grid finished. So Matt Richards with that top spot, Dan Herlock in second, Cedo Via on the podium in third for Brabham, Callum Cripps in fourth, Matthew Lee in fifth, Adam Christopher in sixth, Phil Morby seventh, Matt Allington eighth, Ben Willis 9, and Max Spooner rounding out your top 10. Alan Smith for Craven up in 11th, Callum Wilson 12th, Jack London 13th, Oliver Rogers 14th, and Mitch Maria Calamity 13, 14, 15 there. Nicely done with Jordan Richardson with that big incident he had coming home in 16th position. Stephen McCready 17th, Jeff Fournier, whatever ailments affected him, he finished a lap down in 18th position. We lost quite a few in that one. We lost Joel Beltau, Tiago Lopez for Grow, Jacob Kowalski for Richards & Co., Tyth Cuthbert for Quartermass, and Sam Dowman for Vapor Shield. Those were the drivers that we lost in the course of that race. Well, let's see then how many we will get of our top 12. I don't think it's been decided yet how many of our top 12 will be reversed. Haven't had a notification from production yet how many of that lot will be reversed.
It's definitely the greatest part of the day, in my opinion, is the reverse grid. It's always hilarious to watch, usually.
It's great for it, yeah.
Isn't different, but it's still good.
Richard's driver of the day says for second race, so it's Chris Shepherd. I don't know. I mean, Matt Richards, great start, govern the pace from the front. I don't know. I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards Cedo Via getting the podium for Brabham. I mean, there's quite a few examples of who could go through for, who could be nominated for driver of the day. Did you have any ideas on that one, Alex?
Oh, well, the obvious one would have to be Matt Richards for just obviously gapping the field so quickly. But in terms of from a racecraft perspective, I might have to give it. I'm not sure who said it in chat, but I think I'm going to agree and say Dan Herlock.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, decent effort. Starting from fifth, battle through up into second. He was on the option tyre though, so I'm going to stick with my vote for Cedo Via. He was on the prime tyre and hustling Callum Cripps for quite a while. We know how good a defensive driver Callum Cripps can be. So I'm going to go that way because he did eventually. Took him a while, but yeah, that's who we get my driver of the day vote for that one. And Nathan Croker joining us back again. Good to see.
You just see now the calendar back on Croft.
I just saw Callum Cripps comment in chat there. Definitely not me. I'm driving like a blind cat. That's a new one.
Have chat open.
That's rookie mistake.
Sorry.
Come on. Well, as we're looking at the calendar, we got Croft in 2 weeks' time. Is that a circuit you're familiar with?
I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever seen Croft, so that's going to make broadcasting and commentary quite interesting.
It's a good circuit. It's mainly flat, but it's really twisty. It's the circuit I'm least familiar with of our calendar for this season. So there is going to be a fair amount of blind leading blind or blind cats in the form of Callum Cripps. He's driving like a blind cat, yet put on a defensive show like that. Okay, call that as you will. So we're just waiting for the grid to be formed then for race number 3. Have you seen how many of our top 12 are being reversed? Because I haven't as yet.
There is no notifications.
What was that, production? Still waiting. Okay. So that has not been decided yet. So that is going to prevent our grid being built, because we do need to know how many of the top 12 will be reversed, unless, of course, we don't do it this week, which would be a shame if we don't, because we've done it every week. So we just basically have to wait for that element to be decided. 12. Oh, all 12 of them are being reversed. So, all right. Okay. So if we swap on to the next tile, production, on where our finishing results were, that puts Callum Wilson into pole with Alan Smith for Craven alongside him. Alan Craven says, "Oh my God, I'm on the front row." Yes, you are, sir. So then that puts Max Spooner and Ben Willis onto row 2. Matt Annington and Phil Morby, row 3. Adam Christopher and Matthew Lee, row 4. Callum Cripps and Cito Vaya, row 5. And Dan Herlock and Matt Richards on row 6. Adam Cripps said, "Oh no." Because I get what he means though, because if you are midfield pace, which obviously with the Alan finishing in 11th, understandable, and then suddenly you are put with a lot of very fast guys right on your tail, it does put a lot of pressure on you. Some drivers may opt to think, you know what, this isn't my fight, I'm just going to let you go. But you're in that position, you are perfectly entitled to defend it. And when I've done reverse grid races, you're damn right I've defended it, because my thoughts are I'm not likely to be here very often, so I'm going to run with it. Good point, production. So Matt Richards, with his godlike starts, bearing in mind he's back on the prime tire, so he ran the option tire in the race we've just seen. So but the thing is, that puts him right in the middle of the pack at the point when it's most congested. So is that going to help him? We will see.
Also where you're most vulnerable as well from accidents, so that is another thing to take into consideration. He might not make it past turn 1. I'm not trying to commentate his curse him, because I would love to see him on the front row to try score a hat trick, but it is just something to take into consideration, because that is where we usually see the incidents happening, from the mid-ish to high back of the field there. So it's hard to see, but with Matt Richards' launch, I bet I'll see him in the front row in one corner.
Well, we are about to find out when the grid is formed and the session gets underway. Great question there from Adam Christopher. Who do we have on options in that top 12? Well, we only have 5 drivers competing tonight that are running the options in this race. Nathan Croak, who will be starting from the back. Max Spooner, who starts in third. Who else? Alan Smith is not in that top 10. Matthew Lee most certainly is. So he finished fifth, so he'll be on row 2, 3, 5, I think. Jeff Fournier, who starts towards the back because he had a bit of a horrendous race. So only one of that reverse grid element, which is Max Spooner. Yes, Alan, you are indeed. I've just said Alan Smith is. I just said only one of our front rows, our top 12 are soft tyres. Of course, Alan Smith in the Craven Racing number 92 is on the front row with option tyres, so, as he's just reminded me. So that's going to be interesting. So Alan's got a great opportunity. If he can make those soft tyres last, he's got a great opportunity to cannon it from the line and run off into the distance. So we could see a Craven car fighting for that podium.
What I love as well is how no confidence has been shown in the TCUK lounge chat either. Everyone just saying this is going to be fun and carnage. So let's expect good things.
Well, I mean, a reverse grid race always has its element of carnage. That much we know.
That is true.
So we're just waiting for one more, I believe, to rejoin, looking at what is being said in production. So as soon as everybody's in, we will get our rolling lap, our final rolling lap underway of the night, and then let the carnage begin. Hard tyres on front row. Good luck, Alan. It will be fun while they're cold, says Danny H. Well, true, Mr. Herlock, you are absolutely right. We will have to see. I guess it depends on how hard you work them during the warm-up lap. I don't know how effective. Obviously, you have to do the rolling lap, otherwise the tyres are absolutely stone cold, and then you will go pretty much nowhere fast. But how effective is the warming lap? How close to racing temperatures do they get during that warm-up lap?
Exactly that. Obviously, now with going on to the last race with the reverse grid factor on top of it, we will definitely see most likely a tighter grid with probably less racecraft than you would like to say. But everyone's saying it's going to be carnage, and I've repeated this already. But I hope it's not carnage because it would always provide good racing. But I have a feeling I've said this again before, but turn 1 to turn 5, the tightest parts of the track is just going to be utter chaos.
With the first heavy braking zone, of course, being the hairpin at just before Iron and Bend, just after the lakeside. So, yes, Rachel, I think where we're going to likely see the carnage is probably going to be Cascades on the opening lap. But we will see. Again, for the most part, the field has been fairly well behaved. We have had a few issues, as you will have in racing, whether it's virtual or trackside. You will always have a few misdemeanors, a few misjudgments. Okay, the grid is now beginning to form. So everybody is in. Once we get the rolling lap underway, we will then switch to our trackside cameras to get this last race. There we go. So we've got the Richardson Co. BMW. That is Callum Wilson on stage left with Alan Smith for Craven starting in second. Then it is Max Spooner for Quartermass in third. Ben Willis for Drake on row 4. Oh, there's a great shot. There's our double race winner of the night, Matt Richards. So these are all the people that he needs to try and leapfrog with that absolutely storming start. That's assuming he gets another one of those storming starts. But if he does, has he really got the space to use it? Again, as we've said, Oulton Park is very, very narrow. And he's going to be facing 3 wides coming through, Old Hall and down towards Cascades. He's going to have to be pretty brave to put any moves on in those circumstances.
Night has just shown how powerful the Hondas can be around certain tracks as well, and it's definitely going to be a night to remember for Matt Richards, who's definitely extended his championship points. Not sure if he's going to be leading at all, because obviously I'm not sure how many he has won during this championship so far, but again, he's going to be happy with tonight's result, even if he doesn't win his third race. But he's got it on the line to potentially win all 3 races here for tonight if he's able to gain those 12 positions, well, 11 to be exact. But again, on top of that, we've seen, I'm not sure, was it Callum Wilson who gained 11 positions last race, or was it a different driver? I can't really remember now.
I've already forgotten.
Nice.
Yeah, because there's so much to talk about, it's often difficult to remember who really did those stand-up performances. I think you might be thinking of race 1, where it was Callum Wilson for 3rd from 9th, I think it was, or something like that. But yeah, so you've got our double race winner with a picture-in-picture in the bottom right-hand corner. So we'll see how he's able to progress through the field, as we are looking at Alan Smith coming through large corner down towards the line to form up. Yeah, wrong side. There you go. Oh, that's Max Spooner that's keen to get on with it. So then, for the third and final time tonight, field doth form at Oulton Park. Some people are quite some distance away from the front of the box. Well, that's best to kind of keep away from potential penalty. All right, green flag is held. Wait for it to drop to signify the beginning of our third race, and away we go. Now, does our storming start happen? It kind of does, but he's got nowhere to use it, as you can see in the picture-in-picture. But coming through Old Hall, oh, that is a very wandering Ben Willis, but he does manage to keep it on the straight and narrow. Brilliantly done. So it is still the BMW from Alan Smith. Then it is, I believe that's going to be Adam Christopher that's perhaps gone up into 3rd position. We'll know when the tower comes to us then. That is Matt Allington that is in 4th. They really condense. There's lots of door banging and people punching each other in the face. But our storming starting, Matt Richards has not been able to work through the field, but he's got nowhere to use that pace. He's trying. You can see in the picture-in-picture, he's trying to find a way through. The road just simply is not wide enough. It's Wilson from Smith, from Spooner, your top 3.
Callum Wilson already starting to create a tiny bit of breathing space for himself. This is very ideal for him, as we use the picture-in-picture and already see Matt Richards going up into what is going to be 9th position. He's gained quite a few positions so far already. Now he has a gap ahead of him. He wants to try track down, but we're on board still with Alan Smith, currently in P2, but for how long? We do see Max Spooner behind with a second gap, so quite a big breathing space as well. He's trying to hunt down Callum Wilson right now, but we do see as well it's going to be Max Spooner in the quartermaster car, and there are a lot more pressure as he goes for the inside line, going through Lloyd's corner once again, but he's not going to be able to hold it on for too long, as we do see Allington having the outside line now into Old Hall, but we also see now what is going to be Morby looking for any scraps from this battle, as well as the other quartermaster car. So we do see it's going to be a quartermaster salvage once again, as we do see that it's going to be Allington going for the inside line, going into Caskets. We're going to see double way, two-way here going into Caskets. It's going to be very difficult. There's going to be a tiny bit of door banging. We're going to see one of the quartermaster cars go very, very wide. That's not the quartermaster car, sorry. That is going to be, is that Morby? Yeah, that's Morby's gone off, sorry.
I think it was kind of helped in where he's taken the very sensible option to not just jump straight back on the track. Has cost him so many positions, but he was somewhat helped, I think, off the road. But you've got 3 side-by-sides going on through the hairpin once again, as that is now Max Spooner, Adam Christopher. Oh, look at that. Here comes the Civic of Matt Richards, now up into 4th with the misadventures of others. Oh, crikey, he's done off flirt with those bollards, but then he's been doing that all night. Up into 4th position from 12th. Max Spooner started in 3rd. He's still inside the top 5, but he's got Matt Allington on his case in the Ford. So can the YTF Ford get past the quartermaster car? We will have to see. We just saw the Civic going on to 2 wheels. He did that very dramatically, but not particularly successfully, we will add, in practice. A little bit further down, Jack London trying to get a side-by-side going on with Matthew Lee as he's locking up a bit, coming into Lodge corner once again, gets side-by-side with the chrome-coloured car. Can he get it done? No, not quite. Matt Lee manages to get the momentum when he needs it. Here comes Jordan Richardson in the Civic. Manages to get one of the Calamity cars, but that's going to put him on the outside line. Oh, no, the Calamities come together. As Jack London really had no option there. He was a bit of a passenger as he was having a big old slide. And there's an RSR. That's George Fournier. Jeffrey Fournier. Where's George Fournier coming from? I have no idea. Jeff Fournier up into what is now 11th position from near the back of the field. This is a great scrap going on.
This is absolutely brilliant. Now, we do see Matthew Lee having the inside line going into the hairpin from the Calamity forwards there, as we do see he's going to be able to maintain his position now, but we do see the two teammates fighting. But earlier on, unfortunately, we did lose Ben Willis from an incident in the same exact corner now, as we go on board now with one of the quartermaster cars of Max Spooner. Behind there's a tiny bit of a conflict going on between Allington and Herlock there, as we go back aboard. Herlock now just trying to get his revenge, to try and get past now Allington in that forward, but we do see it's going to be more difficult, as we do actually see how the turns have tabled here. I know I've said that wrong. I say it on purpose before someone gets backlash with me. Cripps now behind as well. This is again the complete opposite to what we saw on the past two races, but we now see him just lunging for the inside. The Ford not being able to, oh my god, there is a tiny bit of contact there. As what I was going to say is the BMW not being able to get by, but now the Ford under an immense amount of pressure, almost pushing him down the start finish straight as we enter on to the next lap.
So Callum Wilson then has built up 2.5 seconds over Alan Smith, who in turn has a second over the quartermaster car of Adam Christopher. The top three are kind of spaced out a little bit. Matt Richards up into fourth, trying to close in on the lead quartermaster car. Then is Max Spooner behind, with this battle we are enjoying of Matt Allington and Dan Herlock locked in an argument for 6th position. The Ford fending off the advances of the BMW. Right behind them, Callum Cripps, again staring at that familiar RSR BMW that he's crossed swords with many times before. Jordan Richardson in the next of the Hondas is not far behind either. Cedo Vaya just about a second back in the Toyota. There is Matt Richards. He has caught to the back of Adam Christopher, so he's going to be challenging for his entry into the podium spots at this point. So again, that storming start, or at least just keeping it on the track, keeping out of trouble, has brought the Vapor Shield Racing Honda up into 4th position. Can he make it 3 from 3? Only time will tell, as there's a bit of grass flirting going on. As Matt Richards got the overlap he needs. You bet he has. Banzai's the inside, coming up towards Lodge. It's been a long day. Up towards Lodge corner, and then gets through Deer Leap, and that is Matt Richards up into 3rd.
Now, with still 11 laps remaining, Matt Richards going up into P3. His high chances, well, no, his chances are now becoming more and more high of getting that hat-trick win here tonight, as we do see now what is going to be Callum Cripps trying to put a tiny bit of pressure on the quartermaster car behind, but we do see Allington as well trying to get by Dan Herlock as quickly as he can, even though it was the opposite way earlier. So I'm just starting to think Dan Herlock's just been able to get by, but we do go back on board with Callum Cripps now, as we do see now entering into the hairpin once again. We do see one of the other Hondas now, the Vapor Shield Honda's just pushing Cripps along. That is going to be Richardson's now, as we go into Knickerbrook once again. We don't see any sort of position change just yet, but this is going to be a brilliant overtaking opportunity for some of these cars. There's going to be a ton of big contact there. That is going to be the quartermaster car being absolutely abused there, but he's able to maintain his position there. But we do see now Callum Cripps still trying to get by at any given chances. We do also see now Richardson having a bit more pressure behind from that Brabham Esports Toyota.
Yeah, that quartermaster car is ruined. He hit the bollard so hard, and he is going to just plummet through the field. He's already lost 2, and you can see that car just won't turn now. It's already off the road, nearly takes Cedo Vaya with him. Jeff Fournier along for the ride. I think that quartermaster car is going to have to bail. But it can't actually turn to the pit lane because there was people on these inside liners. There goes Jordan Richardson on the inside line of Karen Cripps. The Richardson Co BMW knew that one was up and did not try and defend it. Also, there was about to say, Matt Richards has managed to get ahead of Alan Smith up into 2nd place. So the Honda is charging on. He's got 5 seconds to close in to Callum Wilson. So that is a big old gap. But You can see his prey ahead. He has got some back markers to deal with as well by the look. So Matt Richards in a podium spot. Can he make it 3 from 3?
Now, this is either an extremely fast driver or an extremely fast car. I'm not going to say anything just yet, but we do go further back, and then we do see the Hyundai, fortunately losing that position to Phil Morby. It's now going through into Knickerbrook once again. We do see Phil Morby being able to gain that position, going up into P12, and the Hyundai not having much of a chance to be able to regain or retaliate to try and get his position. Phil Morby going up to P11. That's going to be one of the quarter mass cars into the barrier. I'm not sure who that actually is. That's going to be
Adam Christopher.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's gone off the roads at where was that? I think that was Clay Hill, wasn't it? That he's gone for a wander. So such a shame for Cordomars. He was doing pretty well, but alas, that has dropped him down the field. Lopez has had trouble. We've lost Oliver Rogers as well, and yeah, Adam Christopher has retired the car. You never want to see it, but that has unfortunately taken its toll. That puts Matt Lee into the top 12 as he's just gone for a bit of a wander. There's Dan Herlock on the back of Alan Smith trying to get the Craven car out of the podium spots. Has a look on the outside line in the RSR BMW. Oh no, wheel disconnected for... oh no, we've had some difficulty here. So that was Alan Smith going too deep, taking Dan Herlock with him. But someone went very wide and went for almost down the wrong wrong version of the circuit. Not entirely sure who that was that went for it. It may have been Matt Allington. But Dan Herlock now up into the podium spot. That is such a shame for Adam Christopher. The wheel disconnected. So, yeah, a technical issue, retiring him from the race. Never want to see it, but technical issues before sim races as well. That's Kowalski that is also out of the race. Plenty of racing still to take place. Someone kicking a bit of dust. Assumingly that is Matt Richards, who he's not gaining any time on Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson absolutely flying in the Richards & Co. Treble 4. Slightly further back, Cedar Via looking at the back of Callum Cripps. So that he's locked in an argument for 7th position. Jordan Richardson in the next Honda just ahead with, who's right behind him, Jeff Fournier now inside the top 10 for RSR. So, what might have been for him, considering his performance in the first race. But looks like drivers just beginning to settle into a bit of a rhythm, but we'll see if they're able to maintain that, because we know how easily that rhythm is broken, particularly at a track that is as challenging as Oulton Park.
100% as we do now see Jack London just starting to gain some time here on the Hyundai of Matthew Lee as we go into the lakeside hairpin once again. He gains quite a bit of time under braking there. That seems to be where the Ford is quite strong compared to that Hyundai is just under braking. The Hyundai obviously won in this entire grid here for tonight, and I believe for most of the championship, so not much to compare off other Hyundais. But for a single car manufacturer right now, he is doing pretty well for himself over the past 2 races. It does seem the luck has started to run out a tiny bit, but obviously I'm not going to speak too soon. It's still just over halfway of this race left to go. We're just under, halfway of this race left to go. We have to see now if Jack London is going to be able to gain any more time as we go over into Lodge Corner once again. But he is actually losing more time to Matthew Lee, so he's start putting the pedal to the metal just ever so slightly to just try and create a tiny bit of breathing space for himself for the remainder of this race.
Dan Herlock on the move. He sets a new fastest lap. He's chasing after Richards, who is, Callum Wilson is just in a league of one. That gap is extended by almost a second a lap. So absolutely superb pace from the Treble 4 Richards & Co. BMW. Jack London really getting into the groove and closing back in on Matthew Lee. And already Dan Herlock has closed in on the back of Matt Richards. So again, that sliding BMW, that loose setup just working well for the RSR BMW as he stares at the back of the Civic. So what will Matt Richards do here? Has he just kind of settled for second? Is there damage to the car? We don't know. I mean, bearing in mind that Matt Richards would have started in 12th, could well have had a few bumps and scrapes on his way up to second. But Dan Herlock is looking very keen to relieve him of that particular podium spot. Not going to come off through Druids. Is he going to have a look on the inside line coming up towards Lodge? A little bit too wide. Thinks about it, but no, that door very unceremoniously slammed in his face by the Honda.
Now, of just over 6 laps remaining, we do see now Daniel Hurlock going down into what is going to be the elite there, just again bottoming out quite a bit, which the BMW seem to be doing quite frequently here, unfortunately, which is going to lose a lot of power. There's going to be a tiny bit of touchy there, as you can see going through turn 1, but we do see now Daniel Hurlock still going to be able to lose a tiny bit of time, unfortunately for him, but that is going to be very fortunate for Matt Richards. And Matt Richards, who's had quite a chill race for the past 2 races, starting to feel it going on to race 3 here, as we do see Callum Wilson practically out of the order so far. He is 8.2 seconds ahead, but now Daniel Hurlock wants to try and get by. There's going to be a tiny bit of contact between the 2 drivers, but there is at least no fatalities that were brought during that.
So Alan Smith then, he's lost 4th. He had lost 5th as well, but he's just regained that from Jordan Richardson. Although we'll see the side-by-side of the back of the shot. There they are, coming down into Knickerbrook. But all eyes at the moment still on this battle for 3rd. Oh, there is Jordan Richardson in the Honda that now leads this group. Oh, that's Alan Smith bottoming out on the exit of Knickerbrook. So the Craven Racing entry as down into 5th position with Callum Cripps all over his tail, dragging Cedar Vire along for the ride. Just see Jeff Fournier at the back of the shop. There goes the Richardson Co BMW on the inside line, coming up towards Lodge. Nothing that Alan Smith can do there. Looks like Cedar Vire is going to follow through as well, making Alan Smith's day even worse. Well, Alan Smith having to go back though on the Brabham Toyota. Just saw the top of the shot there. Side by side with the Brabham car. He's going to have the inside. Is that going to pay off for him? Oh, bit of grass flirting again, but no, Alan Smith holds on to 7th position from Cedar Vire. But it's Wilson from Richards from Hurlock, your top 3.
As it's starting to stand, it's starting to become quite isolated once again. Not too many bolts happening, but we do still see Dan Hurlock at P3 attempting to get by Matt Richards as quickly as he can. There's just 2 tenths between the 2 drivers so far. Now we do see Richardson in P5 of that Honda, having quite a big gap in between both cars, both in front and behind him. So he's having a bit more of a chill race right now compared to what he would have been having at the start of today's race. But with only 5 laps remaining now, he wants to keep it this way because I'm not sure what tyres he's on. Do you know, Chris, what tyres he's on?
Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan.
Jordan Richardson is on Prime. He ran his options in the last race.
Oh, okay, because that would have been ideal if he was on those option tires. But going back on board now with Daniel Hurlock as we go through into Lodge Corner and D Elite once again all over the rear. Now we do see Daniel Hurlock now wants to try and get by going into Old Hall Corner, also known as turn 1. He goes for the outside line. It's never usually worked, but he's going to try and perform the switchback. No, it's not going to work for him. Was trying to gain that inside line, which is going to be crucial for him as we go into Cascades. Now just the compression that we see with the suspension that always makes the cars jumps there, but it doesn't seem he's going to get by that easily just yet.
And Matt Richardson doing just what he needs to do to maintain that 2nd spot with 4 laps to go of what has been a thrilling night's racing, as it always is with the TCUK contingent as powered by AK Esports. So the Honda fends off the advances of the RSI BMW once again. That's allowing Matt Allington in the Ford. There he is in 4th position to close in on these 2 whilst they continue to fight, whilst the Honda continues to cost both of them a bit of time likely, but it doesn't look like Matt Richardson's got any particular answer as far as raw pace is concerned. So Dan Hurlock is going to have to elbow his way past, but Matt Allington is closing in quickly as there's a bit of 2-wheeling going on from the RSI BMW. He's caught the apex a little bit too hard coming through Joyce, and again an immediate defensive posture then from the Honda. That's going to force the BMW to go too far. That's just really wrong-footed Dan Hurlock as they go through Lodge, and that's going to bring Matt Allington really into the battle. He's dragging Jordan Richardson with him as well. So Dan Hurlock's going to have a whole world of pressure on his shoulders with 3 laps to go.
This is a repeat of history almost. Daniel Hurlock not being able to get by the defending car just yet, but with still 3 laps to go. As you were mentioning, there is still plenty of time to get this move done. He's going to be, again, a bit more optimistic now as to the end of the race, as we do see that Matt Richards just take a tiny bit of grass with him that will affect his tire just a tiny bit with grip, as we do now see Allington all over the rear of Daniel Hurlock. So this is what we have to see on how much we will see Daniel Hurlock balancing, how much he's attacking and defending at the same time here as we go in to Nickersbrook. Once again, he's not going to be able to gain enough time under braking, but this is usually the best overtaking opportunity the drivers has going through the chicane. He has gained more time here as we go in to Water Tower and Clay Hill now, but he's still not going to be able to get by. This is a very dominant battle so far, but might be the end of Daniel Hurlock's podium here, as we can actually see now Allington just starting to get involved with this battle here as we go through Druid once again, but again, not going to be able to get by with a huge amount of sparks there by Matt Richards.
And again, the Honda of Matt Richards goes to that very defensive posture. And again, that's going to push the RSI BMW wide. That gives Matty Allington a bit of a moment to try and get past. He gets a bit of a punch in the face for his efforts and remains in fourth position. Now cuts to the outside lines. They come towards Old Hall Corner once again. No, doesn't fancy that one. Big slide for the BMW. Almost gets the inside line on the Honda. So now it's an all-out scrap. 2 laps remain. Honda from BMW, from Ford, from Honda, from BMW. Is this group of 5 as now Richardson and Cripps join this particular conga line. Matt Richards, my God, have you got so much pressure on your shoulders? Again, forces Dan Hurlock to the outside line. Matt Allington has barreled on the outside line coming into the chicane. That's nearly 3 wide as Richardson has a look on the inside. Tries to get past Callum Cripps. The Richardson co-BMW completely wrong-footed. Matt Allington in the Ford gets the outside line, gets the momentum, and gets third from Dan Hurlock.
An ultimate lap, providing the best racing we've seen all race year today, as we can see though Daniel Hurlock wants to try and retaliate to get his position back, as he only has 1 lap after this to actually become, well, again, a podium sitter. But we do actually see he's under pressure once again from Callum Cripps. This is again a turn of history. So we do see now Callum Cripps trying to attack him as much as they can. There's going to be contact between the two drivers. Are they going to be able to keep it? Yes, they are. But we also see now one of the other Hondas. That's going to be Richardson trying to get involved with here, nearly going through wide. There is a lot of contact there between the two, as we do see now the Honda going for the outside line, going in to Lodge Corner once again. He's still not going to be able to get by, but he's got to have the inside line once again, going through that very, very small corner. So won't too much. There's going to be contact between them both, and that's going to be both one of the BMWs and the Honda off, but luckily they both stay in a similar position to where they started.
Wow, that I thought was going to be an absolutely catastrophic accident, and somehow all drivers managed to regain the circuit. Not in the position they left them in, but Cedo Via, the big gainer out of that one, up into 4th now with Callum Cripps right on his tail. So Dan Hurlock still right in there as he just tangles a bit with the Richardson Go BMW. He's gone too deep. That's going to allow Jeff Fournier an opportunity to attack him, but no, slots in behind Hurlock. But you can't take this one away from Callum Wilson whatsoever. Where did Callum? He wasn't even in the top 12. So outside of the reverse grid element, has come through to have an unchallenged win overall in race number 3 by 15 seconds in the end, as he comes into Lodge through Dilly for the final time. He can just coast from this point, doesn't need to power through, but of course he will. Your winner for race number 3, flash of the lights, he's happy with it, is Callum Wilson. Very, very nicely done. Second, is it going to be Matt Richards? Well, a little bit further back is where all the fighting is. Whoa, big slide from Dan Hurlock, but Richards second, Allington third, Cedo Via 4th, Callum Cripps 5th, Dan Hurlock in 6th, Jeff Fournier 7th, Richardson 8th, Mitch Marie is going to come home in 9th as Callum Wilson now doing some lawn mowing on his cool down lap. Why not? Pick up as much debris as you like on this slow down lap. But gosh, Ruth, that got absolutely so intense towards the end.
100%. Some of the best racing in sim racing here on the TCUK Esports, powered by AK Esports League here, as we do go back and transition to the pit lane here. I'm going to say the repeated question that I always say every race. Driver of the day picks both chat and you, Chris.
Oh wow, that's not an easy call for that one, but I'm going to say Richardson because sorry, Matt Richards. That was Not Jordan Richardson, as good as that was, but Matt Richards, again, a brilliant start, a great drive through, and then a defensive run masterclass to keep Dan Hurlock at bay for that long. So to confirm the final finishing results of the night, Callum Wilson takes the win. Matt Richardson's second. Matt Allington, actually, there's an argument there for Matt Allington to get driver of the day. That was a superb effort as well. Cedar Via fourth, Callum Cripps fifth. Dan Hurlock with that late contact drops him down to sixth, with Jeff Fournier seventh, Jordan Richardson eighth, Mitch Murray ninth, and Alan Smith rounding out the top 10. Group coming up then, Jack London 11th, Phil Morby 12th, Matt Lee 13th, Ty Cuthbert 14th, Max Spooner 15th, Nathan Crokin 16th, and Tiago Lopez was a couple of laps down in the pit lane, I think, in the end. We lost quite a few again. Joao Belto, Jacob Kowalski, Adam Christopher. You never want to see it, a wheel disconnect, denying him a good run in race number 3. Lost a few more towards the tail of the pack. There we go. Oliver Richards, Ben Willis, and Stefan McCready not seeing the checker flag. And that is going to be it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to those that have been with us, either live or post-event. Your company is always very, very welcome. Next up in 2 weeks' time, on the 4th of September, is Croft, the very twisty circuit, but very, very quick. So we should really see some fantastic racing once again. There's going to be a lot of elbows out because you really need to at a circuit like Croft. Thank you very much, Alex Newman, for joining me in the commentary box once again. Always a pleasure to be alongside you, good sir.
Always great commentating alongside you as well. I'll obviously see you on the 4th of September for Croft.
That you shall. Thank you very much, Ryan Gill, for giving us the amazing camera shots. Always a pleasure to have you alongside us. And we will see you lovely people in 2 weeks' time for round number 6 of this amazing championship, sponsored by AK Esports. Until next time, thank you very much and good night.